Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial we're going to create a Zoom class. In the last tutorial we used a power function to calculate the colours, and that just has the effect of making pixels that have higher number of iterations, they have brighter colours, while the lower numbers of iterations, those pixels, they tend to have darker colours than they did previously, and that accentuates more of the detail in the fractal, which looks really nice. Now we'd like to be able to zoom in on particular bits of this, and because this is a static bitmap, there's going to be a kind of manual element in that where we have to get the coordinates of the cursor, hard code it into our program. So if you, at the end of this section of the tutorial, I'm going to give you some exercises, including one that you can tackle if you want, which is to turn this into a program that you can actually click and zoom. But we won't do that here, we'll do it manually. So what we're going to be doing is we want it so that you can select a point to zoom in on the image, and then we take that point, move it to the center of the screen, and then zoom in around it. And then having done that, we can again look at the bitmap, select a point to zoom in on, get the mouse coordinates of that within the bitmap, and then move that to the center and zoom in on that, so we can apply repeated zooms to the image, which when we run the program once, it will apply those repeated zooms that we've hard coded by examining different stages of the image, combine them all into one and give us a final zoomed picture. So what we need is a little class here just to store our list of zooms. So I'm going to right click this project, go to new class, and we'll just call this zoom, and I'll put it in my usual Cave of Programming namespace, click finish. We're not going to need zoom.cpp, so I'll delete it. I'll go to zoom.h, and we're not going to need the destructor either, so I'll delete that. We will need the constructor, but I'm going to kind of implement that right here in line because this is just such a small little class. And in fact, I'm also going to change this to a struct. So you might remember, if you've seen my beginners course, a struct has all the members public by default, so we can delete the public keyword, whereas a class has all the members private by default. So apart from that, structs and classes are exactly the same. So now we're going to need to store some information here. I'm making these public, by the way, because it's just really a little piece of data, and it kind of seems like overkill to create get and set methods for it, especially since we won't end up using it a lot in our program. You know, if you have a struct representing a pixel, for example, and you're referring to it over and over again in your program, then for efficiency's sake, it's not bad to make that a struct, make everything public and access it directly, rather than going through get and set methods. Here I'm just doing it because, well, it's a really small little class, and it's not going to cause any confusion in our code if we access these data members directly, I think. So we're going to need an int x and an int y. These are going to be the coordinates that we want to zoom to in the bitmap coordinate system, so they're going to be integers, and we're going to need a double scale. Let's initialize these all to 0, which I could do in the constructor, but in fact I don't really need to do it at all, because we are going to set them with the constructor that we're going to create. But since I can do it, and since I might change this class in future, this struct in future, if I carry on developing this program after this course. So I always think it's not bad to initialize things when you have the opportunity to do so. Now in the constructor, we're going to make this take a int x, int y, and double scale. I'm not even giving these a m_ prefix, just because I'm viewing this as just a little really simple thing to store a bit of data. So I'm not going to go to the kind of lengths that I would normally go to with a more complicated class. Let's initialize those right here. So we're going to initialize x with x, y with y, and scale with scale. And we're going to need to just put a sort of dummy implementation there. There's nothing really to implement. That's basically it. So I think that's good. If you want to just check your syntax, maybe it's a good idea just to include it in main here, include zoom.h, and then compile your program just to check that you don't get any errors. So we've still got these unused variable warnings, which are annoying me, but I'm leaving them in for the moment just in case they come in handy later. And when you're debugging this kind of program, they often come in handy. So you also might want to check the minimum and max values of things. Okay, so until next time, happy coding.